is that virus contagious to the other cubs and other bears?
Yes, it can be. It's not zoonotic as far as I know, so we're not in danger of getting it. But yes, they could pass it along.
And somebody was wondering about competition within the litter, and if a litter of 3 cubs, that means the cubs are competing with one another for food. And Naomi, could being the smallest cub or being a runt of the litter, affect it? Could that be a factor in its energy, and perhaps its susceptibility to illness and maybe slower growth?
It could be. We do know that there's lots of competition when there's more than one cub. And you can see, if you watch the families closely, you can see competing for food, competing for fish, competing for mom's milk. But I always like to say size isn't everything. Our largest bear is not our most dominant bear. And sometimes the smallest cub can be a pretty powerful source. Look at 128 Grazer's smallest cub. I would not want to mess with her when she was a spring cub, and I don't want to mess with her now. So it could be a factor, but sometimes the small ones learn how to fight for what they need, and they survive. So it's a complicated story. Nothing is a yes or no here.
And we're looking at a mother bear on the camera right now, Naomi. That looks, you can confirm this for me, that looks like maybe number 284. She did a little bit of her classic sort of stand up, look around before she went into the river.
Yeah, I think that could be. She's a beautiful bear.
Okay.
Quite a beautiful bear. And she's got 2 spring cubs, and she does look around a lot.
Yeah, that's one of her distinctive characteristics, in my opinion. Her mother does that well in 08. And 708 Amelia is still using the river. So we have multiple generations of bears using the river at the same time. And Amelia has 2 yearlings this year, 2 giant, very fat, healthy-looking yearlings.
Yeah, and you see
let's see. Let's move on.
Standing up.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Naomi.
No, I mean, I just saw 284 standing up, and we always see her mom standing up as well.
And along the lines of a question we asked, actually two related questions to this one that we answered earlier, but slightly different. Somebody was wondering, would there be a concern of another bear consuming the carcass and possibly contacting a disease, or that disease? I mean, it's possible. Again, canine adenovirus is spread through bodily fluids, but I have to be careful to note, and I want everyone to make sure that you understand this. It could be dozens and dozens of other things. So again, the odds of it actually being this virus, we just don't know for sure. So we got a firm answer on that instance when 451's cub died in 2015. It's actually much more likely that we're not going to know what ails this cub right now. If it survives, we're not going to know for sure. And if it dies, we may not know before it gets washed away, or another bear decides, hey, this is a potential meal. So yeah, it's possible that if it does have a to another bear, but yeah, we don't really know what is ailing it right now.
And another observation I would make, and I would ask for the observations of the cam viewers.
Anything abnormal about that cub until just this afternoon your time?
Not that I know of. But I will ask. As I said, 2 days
is difficult to watch. Like I mentioned, when we first went live, or near the point when we first I do think that bears experience are very intelligent. They share a lot of characteristics with dogs, so they probably experience pain on similar levels. So it is difficult for me things. I try very hard in my own mind to decouple, their experience with my own, and realizing that the best way that I can help them is to try to protect their habitat. Even if there are, what we can perceive to be tragic events, if like a cub dying of an illness or whatever it happens to be, I'm trying to work in my mind to protect these animals in the habitat that they need to survive. And that includes not only the land base but the water base, and the oceans too, because this population of bears is highly dependent on salmon. So we have to protect the oceans because salmon live and grow big in the sea. And without healthy oceans, we wouldn't have this population of bears. So it is, for me, it is very difficult to watch. But again, I try to decouple myself emotionally from the lives of the bears, even though it can be very difficult at times. So that's how I try to do it. I know it doesn't always work. There are lots of bears that I see that I love to watch, and I some of the bears that don't come back anymore that I miss very much. But yeah, that's a couple of the ways that I try to get through it.
Yeah, it's difficult. I will not try to hide the fact that it was very difficult to watch what went on this afternoon, because it's such a contrast to the delight of seeing those young cubs bounce around and being taken care of by their moms. But I think what helps me is to gather perspective, both for myself in reminding myself how difficult it is for cubs to survive, and reminding myself how incredible the sows are, how much they do for their cubs, and how much that sow was doing to find its cub, and and actually relaying those stories of strength and resiliency to you helps me get through it personally, just personally, so that I can share with you as a witness to these stories. And also for me to remember that 2 days ago, I was joyously happy because number 63, 505's cub that was so sick and almost died last year is now back with her family. And and that's just life. I mean, that's life. And what a privilege we have to be able to observe life and death and struggles and success, and that's why nature and able to watch it here on a daily basis is such a privilege and so exciting. So I get through it in that way. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to go home and shed a few tears when I'm alone in my cabin, but putting things in context helps.
For sure, and sharing this experience with a lot of other people is one way that we can also, sort of process our thoughts and feelings on these situations. Hearing other people's perspectives, for sure. The getting questions from the audience too. I think that really helps me understand the bear world even better. To see the bear world through a different mindset than myself. So all of those things combined are ways that that I am coping. So I invite everyone to sort of participate and share the experience, even though it can be sometimes a difficult one to watch our wildlife cams.
And Mike, I'm going to
Naomi,
say one more
as
thing.
somebody with go ahead. Sure thing.
I want to say one more observation, which you all could not see, which was being on the bridge. I had asked a lot of visitors to respect the bear family and what was going on, and they did. So sometimes you guys complain a lot, the human behavior you see on the lower river, and I'm going to tell you today there was a lot of very human behavior and respectful human behavior of that sow and those two cubs when they were desperately searching for that other cub. So something you couldn't see, but I just wanted to let you know. Sometimes human beings are okay.
Well, we need to be reminded of that once in a while, I think.
once in a
Somebody
while.
was wondering about carrying capacity uh, at, in Katmai. This is a follow-up question for me, Naomi. Maybe I'll grab this one. Because I mentioned before that the bear population in Katmai is about at its carrying capacity, or thought to be at its carrying. So even with abundant fish for a few months, does nature eventually take its course and only the strong survive? Yes and no. An abundance of fish can allow bears that maybe wouldn't survive leaner times to get through another winter, for instance. So they can survive that extra year. Um, if that's an older bear, for instance, that doesn't necessarily that mean that bear is going to reproduce successfully. So it may have already done so in the past, however. So its genes could have already been, throughout the ecosystem in a different generation. But certainly, having more fish allows more bears the opportunity to survive. And at Brooks River, there's a lot of competition for space, as we've seen, Naomi. But around the rest of Katmai, there are a lot of salmon streams, and bears can disperse into those areas, fishing where they don't have to compete so closely for space like they do at Brooks Falls. Can you tell us a little bit about what bears are going to do towards the end of the month and where they might go to fish?
Sure. Towards the end of the month, when the salmon run is diminishing, the bears will disperse to some of the smaller rivers and the creeks around here, because the water levels are low and the fish are there spawning or spawned out. So that's why a lot of times we don't see as many bears here in August, although the last few years we've had some silver salmon runs here that have lasted into August, which have kept bears here. Last year in particular, the water level was very low because it was so dry all summer, and it was literally catching fish in a barrel. The streams were so jam-packed with salmon. So there's a lot of fishing around here that's not in brooks, and I think that given the amount of salmon we're seeing here, I think there are some bears there right now. Mike?
Yeah, for sure. Salmon are dispersing throughout the watershed right now, so bears are going to take advantage of those opportunities. And one of our technicians from Explore.org actually passed on some information to me about canine parvovirus, and she says it's not zoonotic, so it's a
I'm
dog-only disease.
Here she
Go
comes.
go
She's
ahead, Naomi.
back, and she's chasing off an adult. Explorer might want to show the lower river cam. She's back with her two cubs.
The things that the advantage of being on the ground there, you can swivel your head much quicker than a wheel.
Right. Yeah, she's now out by the island. I think there's a lag in terms of what you're seeing, and you'll see her go onto the island.
Yeah, probably what Naomi is seeing and what you are seeing on the webcams at home. There's probably a 30-second to 40-second delay on that. That signal just has to, it travels, out of Brooks River sort of at the speed of sound, but the computers still have to process it. The servers still have to process it. So there's a few bits of magic that have to happen before you can see it at home. And now, Naomi, while we're waiting for the mother to appear, please go ahead.
Where she's going, and right currently she's on the spit. She's still looking for that cub.
Yeah, reach steps, looking and maybe following the scent trail that cub had left earlier. Again, bears have an incredible sense of smell, so they're able to follow scent very easily. And scent's a remarkable tool for these animals and for humans. We know odor. It's a sense. Our sense of smell allows us to go beyond the immediate. Like our eyes, our ears, they're like immediate senses. Once the light passes by us, we can't get it back. But odors linger in the environment for much longer periods really does allow bears, in a sense, to do almost a little bit of detective work if they want to by following odors from place to place. If you Okay, so I'm still on. All right. Again, this is spur of the moment, very impromptu, everybody. So I appreciate everyone's patience and ability to stick with us even through some of our technical difficulties. We are doing our best to try to interpret these situations for you. I think we'll try to get Naomi back here in just a moment. But when the cameras did transition to highlights for a little bit, so there's probably just sometimes there's buffering in the system, and she is on the bear cam signal, the same signal that sends the webcam out of Brooks River, and there are no outside utilities that reach that place, no roads, no power lines or anything like that. So everything has to get sent up through a wireless signal on top of Dumpling Mountain, which you can see very well in the Riverwatch camera, and then it gets sent to King Salmon and then to the rest of the internet from there. We'll try to get Naomi back. However,
Back.
while we're waiting, oh, there you are. Okay, I was just about to
Okay.
get to the next question, Naomi.
Okay.
Uh,
So I just say that
so, somebody.
what
Oh,
before
go ahead.
that she is coming back towards us, and the cubs are kind of hanging on her. She's looking back and forth. I just think this is something we're going to be seeing for a while. So you guys are you're our eyes here, because you'll be here a lot longer tonight than I will.
For sure. Yeah, this is, I think,
Now she's
definitely going to
coming.
be a prolonged experience. It's 8:25 p.m. And I've been basically staring at the webcams and staring at my computer since 5 p.m. doing bear cam work, and then this came up. So eventually, I'm going to have to take my eyes off it. But I'm very appreciative that everyone else is still going to be watching. Naomi? We do
Yeah,
have a
she's right
few
there.
extra questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Is she coming towards you now? Why don't you describe what you're seeing
She's
for
right.
us? But keep in mind our view is about 40 seconds. What you were seeing.
Yeah, she walked right below me. I'm on the east lower river platform, and she is headed towards the Y, maybe out towards the Valley Road with her cubs right now. Still looking around. So, as you said, this is going to go on for a while. She'll be coming back and forth, I'm sure, a lot. And you have another question?
Yeah, we had a few more, and I think we'll try to take these maybe before we call it an evening uh, or an
Yeah.
afternoon, depending on where you happen to be. We one person was wondering about whether a mother bear would pick up a cub when it's in trouble. Sometimes would they do something like that? Sometimes bear mothers, if a cub is acting stubborn, I haven't seen it with brown bears at Brooks River, but with other bear species, I've seen footage of a mother bear picking its cub up by the scruff of its neck and sort of dragging it along when it doesn't cooperate. So it's possible. I don't know if you've seen anything different, Naomi, but I haven't seen it without brown bears, but I certainly wouldn't discount the possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that sometimes they help them out. I mean, there's the 89 backpack story where Holly helped out her injured cub. But when the family groups are swimming around here in the lower river, the mothers are concentrating on finding fish, and they're basically teaching their
Mother bears are famously defensive, some more so than others. But I think that's a distinct possibility if she's around. Of course, she has to stick to the island, she has to be in that vicinity. She's not going to go 400 yards upstream, and any bear that wanders by, she's not going to come charging down the river. So she'd have to be in the immediate vicinity, I think. But Naomi, you did see her chase that young subadult off of that area just a few moments ago.
Yeah, because I mean, even though she probably can't find her cub right now, the last time she saw her cub was on that island. And she saw a subadult near that island and she chased it away. So she's, you're not going there. She's still protective of that place. So we'll have to see. We'll have to watch what she does next.
And just a couple more questions that we have here. I think maybe before we wrap things up, both get a drink of water for our voice boxes, that sort of thing. Um, in
Yeah.
the event that a decision was made to recover the cub, is that something that might be affected by the park's capabilities during the COVID outbreak? Naomi, can you tell us a little bit maybe about that and some of the staffing challenge the National Park Service in Katmai is experiencing right now?
Yeah, well, we have about half the normal staff that we do do normally at this time, and that's mainly because of housing. Because for being safe on other people in COVID, we most people are, instead of sharing cabins, are living on their own. And we also needed to keep space open in case someone did get sick so that that person could be isolated. And we are keeping any contractors or people who are doing research or work out here in separate facilities. So we're being as careful as we can. So that limits the number of people we have here. I think that if we thought that the cub was on that island and that it had died and there was a possibility of retrieving, I think that bear management would try to find a way to retrieve it. Um, that's just a good guess because I think it would be important